your organization owns, manages, inspects, or maintains physical assets in the USA, Part 108 is something you need to understand now. At the moment, Part 108 is in draft, but when this rule comes into effect, it already looks like it will fundamentally change what commercial drone operations are allowed to do in the United States. It's also likely to change the way owners manage their sites and assets with drones. I'm David from FlyFreely. We help asset owners get and stay on top of their commercial drone operations. And right now, one of the biggest changes on the horizon in the USA is the proposed Part 108 rule. Part 108 is being developed to create a clearer pathway for routine, beyond visual line of sight drone operations. For asset owners, this is a big deal. BVLOS has the potential to significantly reduce the cost of monitoring and managing assets. Instead of inspecting an asset in one section at a time, asset owners will be able to cover longer corridors, larger sites, and harder to reach areas in a much more efficient way. However, these new privileges come with a higher level of operational responsibility. Part 108 brings new expectations around approvals, aircraft, people, procedures, record keeping, reporting, and compliance. So if your organization already uses drones, is planning to use drones, then this is a rule you cannot afford to ignore. In this video, I'll explain what we know so far about Part 108, what it is, why it matters for asset owners, and what you should start thinking about now, so your organization is ready when the rule comes into force. Part 108 is the Federal Aviation Administration's proposed framework for more routine BVLOS operations. Most commercial drone operations today happen under Part 107. Part 107 has been extremely important to kickstart the drone industry. However, it was designed around smaller drones flown within line of sight. Part 108 is aimed at more advanced operations. These are operations where larger drones may fly beyond the pilot's direct visual range, across larger areas, and within more complex operating environments. It will also open up areas which were previously off limits due to ground and air risks. So the requirements under Part 108 are significantly more demanding than Part 107. These requirements range from UAS certification, pilot training, organizational procedures, record keeping, and reporting. It should be noted that Part 108 is not likely to be a replacement for Part 107. Many straightforward drone operations will still be best suited to Part 107. For many organizations, the future will involve both Part 107 and Part 108. That creates a management challenge. You will need to know which rule set applies to each mission. You will need to know which aircraft are approved, which people are authorized, what records are required, and what workflows should be followed. Simple operations should not become overcomplicated. Complex operations need the right level of control. As we will see when diving into the detail of Part 108, a clear separation matters. The first new concept introduced in Part 108 is the idea of operation types. The proposed rule recognizes that different drone activities carry different risks. Part 108 defines a range of operation types, including package delivery, agriculture, aerial surveying, civil interest, operations training, demonstration, and flight testing. For most asset and site owners, the most relevant category is likely to be aerial surveying. That includes photography, videography, mapping, inspection, and patrol. Some organizations may also need to consider agriculture, especially where drones are used for vegetation management. The operation type matters because it can affect the limits, approvals, requirements, and management systems required. The structure of Part 108 allows an organization to start with one operation type and add others over time. Based on our experience, we recommend starting with one operation type that creates the clearest immediate value. This reduces the amount of work to prepare your initial application and reduces the likelihood of your application being held up by specific requirements for other operation types. That gives your organization a practical pathway, rather than trying to prepare for every possible scenario at once. Part 108 also introduces a strong focus on population density as a key operational consideration. In simple terms, the requirements become more demanding depending on what your drone is flying over. A remote corridor with very few people presents a different risk profile to an industrial area, a regional town, or a dense urban environment. This is especially important for asset owners because assets often cross different environments. A power line, a pipeline, road, or railway may move through remote, rural, and urban areas. An organisation may need to manage several different operating conditions across its asset base. As population density increases, the requirements increase quickly. Lower risk areas may offer a more practical starting point. Higher risk areas require more sophisticated management systems and aircraft with greater capability. Before applying for approvals, asset owners should understand their operating geography. Again, we would recommend starting in areas with low operational requirements to reduce that initial application development time and FAA assessment time. Part 108 proposes two approval pathways: permits and certificates. A permit is intended for more limited or lower risk operations. A certificate is intended for more complex operations with higher expectations across systems, training, safety management, reporting, and operational control. For many asset owners, a permit-first approach may be the most practical pathway. That means starting with a clearly defined operation type, choosing lower risk operating areas, building internal capability, proving the workflow, and strengthening your record keeping and reporting processes before expanding. This is a crawl, walk, run strategy. It gives your organization a manageable pathway into Part 108 without creating unnecessary complexity at the beginning. Due to the structure of the proposed system, it's likely an organization will end up with multiple permits for different operation types and a certificate with different operation types. Each of these permits or certificates will have different requirements, which need to be managed in parallel to each other. Part 108 also changes how responsibility is managed. Under simpler drone operations, much of the focus is placed on the remote pilot. Under Part 108, the organisation itself carries a much greater level of responsibility. The proposed framework introduces key roles such as the Operations Supervisor and Flight Coordinator. The Operations Supervisor is especially important. This person is expected to have authority over the safe and compliant conduct of operations. They need to understand aviation safety, company procedures, operating limits, and the requirements of Part 108. For larger organisations, this role should be considered carefully. The person or persons in these roles need authority within the business to set and enforce standards. Another consideration is appointing multiple supervisors. This is to cover in case of absences and to manage multiple sites and teams. Before operations begin, asset owners should be clear on who owns the procedures, who approves operations, who maintains the manual, who tracks training, and who makes sure aircraft are approved and serviceable. These questions matter because clear responsibility will be essential for safe and scalable drone programs under Part 108. Under Part 108, the pilot operating the aircraft is known as the flight coordinator. The training requirements for these individuals are significantly increased over Part 107. Topics include weather, crew resource management, strategic deconfliction, conformance, loss link procedures, detect and avoid procedures, to name a few. Also introduced in Part 108 is mandatory minimums for practical training as well as recurrent training to ensure flight coordinators remain competent. Therefore, operators under Part 108 will need a robust training program. Operators will need to consider who will develop the training content, deliver the initial training, and recurrent training. In our experience, this is best handled by a specialist training provider with the experience in developing educational content and delivery. Ultimately, your organization will need to decide on the approach that works best from a cost and time management perspective. Either way, training is an important component of the Part 108 journey. Record keeping and reporting are likely to be amongst the biggest practical changes for many asset owners. Part 108 introduces a much more detailed compliance environment. Organizations will need to keep records covering aircraft, flight activity, personnel, training, maintenance, mechanical issues, operating areas, approvals, incidents, and ongoing reports. For a small team, this may appear manageable at first. The complexity grows quickly when an organization has multiple pilots, multiple aircraft, multiple sites, different operation types, permits, and certificates. This is where manual systems can begin to fail. A spreadsheet, paper form, or general flight logging tool may not be enough for a mature Part 108 program. Asset owners should think in terms of a dedicated UAS management system. That system should help separate Part 107 and Part 108. It should track authorities, workflows, aircraft, people, approvals, maintenance activity, training status, and reporting obligations. It should also allow records to be found quickly when required. In a more formal aviation environment, completing the operation safely is only part of the responsibility. The organization must be able to prove what happened, who was involved, what checks were completed, what aircraft were used, and what records were created. Part 108 sets out specific requirements any UAS must meet to be used under the proposed rule. Asset owners should avoid assuming that every drone currently used under Part 107 will be suitable for future Part 108 operations. The proposed framework introduces airworthiness expectations for aircraft operating under Part 108. That means some existing aircraft may continue to be useful for Part 107 work, while different aircraft may be required for more advanced BVLOS operations. Organizations will likely end up with a mixed fleet. Some aircraft may be only used under Part 107, other aircraft may be used exclusively under Part 108. That makes aircraft governance important. Your organization will need to know which aircraft can be used, under which authority, in which operating environment, and by which personnel. This is another reason why Part 107 and Part 108 should be managed clearly and separately. First, decide which operation type is most relevant. For most operators, that may be aerial surveying. Second, analyze your operating areas and population density categories. This determines if starting in low risk before progressing to high risk regions is viable. Third, decide whether a permit first or certificate first approach is appropriate. Fourth, identify who will fill the required statutory roles and if they have the requisite authority and experience. Fifth, determine the training strategy the organization will take for both initial and recurrent training. Sixth, review the current aircraft fleet to see if systems are likely to meet Part 108 requirements. Seventh, assess whether your record-keeping and reporting systems can be used for Part 107 and Part 108 in parallel. This gives the organization a practical roadmap. Part 108 preparation should be treated as a staged transition. Organizations that start preparing early will be in a stronger position when the final rule is published. Part 108 will be a major step forward for commercial drone operations in the United States. For operators, it may create a pathway to more efficient inspections, wider area coverage, more scalable drone programs, and better use of BVLOS capability. It also raises the standard for operational management. The future of advanced drone operations will require clear authorities, defined roles, approved aircraft, documented procedures, training, maintenance, record keeping, and reporting, and systems that can handle multiple rule sets at the same time. For organizations that prepare early, Part 108 can become a strategic advantage. For organizations that wait until the rule is final, the transition may be delayed. If you're an asset owner, site owner, UAS program manager, or aviation manager, now is the time to start planning. Part 108 is still subject to change, but the direction is clear. Advanced commercial drone operations will require more structure, more governance, and stronger systems. To learn more about preparing your organization for Part 108, click the link below to download our Part 108 preparation guide, or speak to the FlyFreely team about your needs.